Hello, welcome to my second English full ring video. I'm playing 4 tables of 15 cent, 30 cent and have pocket 7s in middle position. I can overlimp this after 2 limpers are already involved. My implied odds are pretty good. That means that I usually win a big pot if I hit a 7. And well, sometimes I also made an overpair with my 7s, and then my chances to win the pot are also pretty good. Now there are 2 overcards to my pair on the board, and I have a very easy fold because he bets into 3 opponents, and this usually always is the 8 or the 10. Not a very draw heavy board, so it's not likely that he's only on a draw. If I would believe that, I would raise my hand to kick the other players out to protect my hand, but there's no reason for me to believe that my hand is the best. When I watched my last video, so my first English video, I recognized some grammatical mistakes. I'm not really in practice, and my English is not very good. But I hope it's enough to that you can follow my thoughts and understand what I'm trying to explain. This video will also be very basic with regard to the explanation level. So it's especially for absolute beginners. Just started playing fixed limit hold'em. Here on the upper left I have ace deuce offsuit and can see a free flop. And check and fold. If you ever read that the opponents are tight, for example if they also from poker strategy, you can lead out on a flop like this against 2 players. But I would never do this without a read in the micro limits, just because the players are too loose, and they will probably call every pair and every bad draw without the odds to justify that call. So it's not worth to put money in the small pot. He would never have folded the pair there. I mean, correctly. Okay, king queen is it's a strong hand, but there's 2 raises for me, and you should muck all the hands against a 3-bet for you, unless the cap hands, and king queen is really sucks against raise and re-raise, just because of the domination problem. If somebody has pocket aces or pocket kings, you're almost drawing dead. If somebody has ace king and you both hit the king, you lose a big pot. So you should always tend to avoid these dominated hands. And for that reason you should also that's why the starting and chart says you should fold strong hands like ace jack or ace 10 suited against the raise before you, just because you don't want to be in a dominated situation. I hope to get a few more hands to that we can discuss a few more, that I can tell you about a few more situations than the last video. It's a little bit poor of interesting hands, but I mean, if you play tight and use the starting and chart, you basically never play a lot of hands. A queen tray is the trash hand. It's always a fold. Oh, here's a good one. Ace queen, and let me have a look into the starting and chart. It's a strong hand. One player raises, all other fold, and I should re-raise it then. If there's a player who raises and at least one opponent calls the raise, I should only call. Okay, I don't like this play a lot, but let's do what the chart says. Okay, no hit on the bottom right, so I check fold. And upper left, trash. Upper right, I have a gut shot straight draw to the nuts. I don't have to discount my outs because there are no flush and no full house possible. If there's a jack, I have the absolute nuts, and I have pretty good implied odds because he indicated a strong hand by raising pre-flop from early position. So let's have a look at the odds. 1.4 in, I have 15 to call. So I'm getting around 1 to 9.5. And this is enough. That if you look at the odds and outs chart, it says that for 4 outs you need odds of 1 to 11, and I only got 1 to 9. But nevertheless I can call, just because at first I may have some more outs with the ace. He could have hands like pocket nines, pocket jacks, ace 10, whatever, pocket queens. Then I have 3 more outs, and on the other hand I'm drawing to the nuts and have good implied odds, so I can go down with a pot size to call. Now I have to call 30, and it's okay, I'm getting about 1 to 7.5, and in fact that's still enough. I'm closing the action, and around 1.8 in a situation like this, when you draw to the nuts and have several other outs, justifies another call. But this is close. At the turn it was close because the effective odds I got were much worse. Was only 1 to around 1 to 8. And 1 to 8 is close, but as I said, the implied odds justify a call. Implied odds mean the money I win if I hit, because if I made a straight I get at least 1 more bet, maybe even more. Okay, now I have to call. I have to call 30 for a $3 pot. So if my hand is good, in 1 of 10 times this call is plus EV for me, which that means that it's that I win long term by calling. But I don't think my hand is good in 1 of 10 times, just because he's raising pre-flop and betting all street, every street. He must have a hand, I mean, and there's another player involved who also must have a hand because he calls the river. So my ace high can't be good. But I had 7. In fact I had 10 clear outs. Both my cards were good. Queen would have won the pot. With a queen I would have won the pot, and with the ace also. So my calls were just fine. Okay, there's a connection problem. Oh, it's okay. Let's see. Ace deuce after 1 limper. I think it's a fold. Yes, I'm in late position. I have ace deuce suited. This is listed as a mixed hand, and this was the situation. One player calls the big blind, and I was in late position, so I have to fold my hand. I could have called if there would have been another limper. The reason for that is that my implied odds increase, so I have a bigger chance to win a big pot if I make a flush, for example, if there are more players involved. Ace 7, not a good hand. Ace 10 is a better hand, but against a raise, as I already explained, it's not. It's a very bad play to cold call this hand, or also to 3-bet, because I don't have an equity edge. That means that on average my hand is not better than his raising hand, because he's raising from under the gun +2. He probably only raises his best hands from there, as we do, and ace 10 is not good. You know, even if you you have to understand this hand range thing. Even if he also raises like ace 9 and ace 8 from this position, and also hands like king queen, which he's probably doing, and I'm ahead against these hands, and I'm a huge favorite against these hands. It's still correct to fold, just because you have to look at his whole hand range, so all hands he's raising, and on the average of these hands. And if you're better than the average, then you can 3-bet. And you can call if you have if the implied odds justify call. So if you have a good drawing hand and a lot of people are involved. But this is not was not given. Tray 6 suited is not a bad drawing hand, but after only 2 limpers, it's not good enough to call. 10-9 suited is an excellent drawing hand, but there's one raise for me, and this is a very bad situation. And ace queen is a very good hand, but against the early raise from under the gun and then a 3-bet, ace queen is not good often enough. There's a very good chance to play against ace king, aces and stuff. A lot of raising going on here today, also in the last video. So I think it's a little bit because of the time, because it's not very late in Europe. It's like evening. The last video was in the afternoon, and I think the games are much better at night. There are more drunk people online and more fish from overseas and stuff, and I think the games lose up there a lot. And it's the best opponents are always the loose passive players who limp in a lot, who call down a lot. The aggressive players are more difficult to play. And I'm wondering a little bit that so many pre-flop raises are going on, so that I can't play a lot of hands. Okay, queen jack. What does the starting hand chart say if you're in the big blind? It's a mixed hand in the big blind, 1 limper. I should only check. Okay. As I said, this is situation, unraised pot. You can lead out then just to try to steal the pot. But now I also have a strong draw, open and straight draw. That's one more reason to bet out for me. And I will follow through on the turn. Hope that he folds like ace high or something. And now my decision is whether to bluff again or to check and fold. I should bluff again when there are a lot of busted draws possible, which are better than my draw. So that I bet and he folds like ace high draw stuff. But there are not a lot of draws possible, you know. So there's no real reason for me to bluff here, and the pot is not very big. It's like $1.20. I have to bet 30. You know, this has to be successful a lot of times to be profitable, but I think it's not given on this special board structure. I don't expect him to fold ace high after he calls the turn. Pocket trays are a check as well. And I mean, I often have the best hand. Problem is, if you get called on a flop like this, you have a difficult decision on the turn whether to bet again or to give the hand up. Just because the pot is so small, and as I said, it's not worth to fight for a small pot. Oh, the bottom left table is getting very short. I hope that it's filling up again, because I cannot play in a situation like this using the starting hand chart. This would be way too tight. So it's probably not very good for a beginner video to play like 3-handed. But pocket eights in middle position are easy raise also if a limper's in. I want to isolate the limper with my eights to kick other players out and to increase my winning chances, because pocket eights is a hand I don't want to play against a lot of players because it's very vulnerable. I hope to get it like 2 or 3-handed, then I have a good chance that he not hits. Okay, as I said, in a heads-up play you cannot fold ace-9 out of the small blind. That's why I just raised this once, and but leave the table. Okay, he donks into me. This is interesting. It's unlikely that I make a continuation bet on the bottom left. It's standard play. It's unlikely that this is the 9. You know, why should he donk the 9? He would try to trap me with a 9. It's usually just a bluff or ace high or the deuce or a smaller pocket pair. So I'm gonna raise the turn for value. With ace-9 I can fold. I mean, I have nothing. Only one overcard. Okay, now he bets out again, which is a little bit strange. Could also be, if he's a bad player, and this is likely, it could also be the deuce, want to avoid a free showdown. But he could also have hit the queen, so I decide only to call. Problem is, okay, I mean, nice play by him. The problem is with raising the river that I cannot really fold to a 3-bet because the pot is so big. So I can only win 1 more bet if I'm ahead, but I can lose 2 more bets if it's if he 3-bets. If he has a better hand, he will probably 3-bet the queen or a 9, and then I lose 2 bets for the chance of winning 1. So that's why I prefer only to call. Here I have a cap against ace-king suited, hope to flop something like a flush draw. Okay, now I can decide. As I said in the last video, against only 2 players as a pre-flop raiser, you should always make a continuation bet. If you have 3 players, it's more difficult, and you should generally not make a continuation bet. But in this case, I have a gut shot and 2 overcards, and the pot is very, very big. For that reason, I decided to make a continuation bet, just because it's worth protecting my hand, which could be best against gut shots and 6 outer hands and stuff. Now I get raised, and I can be sure to be behind against this player, who 3-bets pre-flop and raises the flop. Now it's difficult to play. I hit the king. I'm still behind against pocket kings, pocket aces, pocket queens. Only ahead against pocket jacks. Pocket jacks are the only hand I'm ahead of, and I'm not sure if he raises this. So usually you should bet this because you made top pair. But if you look at his hand range, he 3-bets pre-flop and raises the flop. Although I kept pre-flop, showed a lot of strength. It's not very likely that I'm ahead here. In fact, you know, he could have pocket 10s, pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, or ace king as well. And the only hand I'm ahead of basically is pocket jacks. So for that reason, I'm going to play this careful. And now there's no reason to me for bet off or to check raise. As I said, I have a straight now, but I'm not ahead against any of these holdings. If he's playing reasonable and not like playing trash and not re-raising trash, I'm behind him most of the times, although I have a straight. You know, every hand this is which would be reasonable for him is better than my hand is, because every of these hands have a full house now. So I'm just checking and calling. Yeah, that's what I mean. So this would have been a typical rookie mistake, to give him more action either on the turn or on the river, but there's no reason for me. You always have to try to think about what your opponent was doing in the hand before, and then try to figure out what sort of hands he could have. And in a situation like this, I raised from under the gun. He just 3-bets me, and I capped the whole field. I was showing a lot of strength. And nevertheless, he was raising on the flop. So I can be confident that I can be sure that he has a very good hand. And as I said, there are more hands that beats me than there are hands that I beat. And the river doesn't change a thing. In fact, the river was bad for me, because the only hand I was ahead of, pocket jacks, now also got me. So I couldn't more make a crying call just because he's unknown and the pot was big. So this may be an interesting hand for a rookie, because I'm sure that a lot of new players would play this much more aggressive, because they would not recognize that the cards on turn river not improved their hand. And now I'm making something I would never do in a non-coaching situation. I just posted the money dead to get a little bit more action here because I was timed out. But this is a waste of money. I mean, you can post in the cutoff on the 10 max table. This is okay if you do this. But no, this was not the cutoff situation position. Okay, on the upper left, he raised from early position, so he's likely to either have an overpair or over cards. I don't think he could hit the 10 or the 8, because there are not a lot of hands that raise pre-flop from his position, including an 8 or a 10. So usually he either has the overpair and has me beat, or I'm ahead against ace king, ace queen, ace jack. And because it's more likely that he only has overcard, I'm check raising the flop to get a payoff. If this is a draw heavy flop, he probably not believes me and just calls me down. If he has ace king, for example. So I'm just playing for value here. Now the jack is very bad because ace jack got there, and I'm willing to fold if he raises, just because I cannot believe to be ahead against the turn raise. After the scare card, I would only be ahead against semi bluff. Okay, this is the absolute worst card possible because ace king and ace queen got there, and as I said, these are the holdings I'm ahead of. So with every other river, I would have bet the river for value to get a call of. I would bet for value against ace high and ace king and ace queen against these particular hands. But now after this card, I can check and fold. You know, because there are no hands in his range that I beat now. Maybe like ace 7 suited, but this is not enough. So it's again a very good example for thinking in hand ranges and putting the opponent on a hand after the information you get. I got a good information that he raised pre-flop from an early position. Okay, unfortunately my hand was folded on the upper right. I hit top pair. I would have betted. In an unraised pot, you should always bet your top pairs. Let's see if I can play king 10 suited. No. Not in this particular situation where there's only one limp. The reason for my check raise on the flop was that this is the standard move. If you're out of position, that means first to act, and you're not the aggressor, you're not the pre-flop raiser. You should then, with a good hand, or with a hand where you think you have a good chance to be ahead of, should check raise him to just get his one bet, because most people make a continuation bet, and I wanted to get this bet and not give him the chance to fold. Okay, king 9 suited is a mixed hand here, and I'm in late position, and here it says all players fold raise, and I can handle this guy as a fold because he posted his money blind dead. So he's like has a random hand, and I can ignore him. Bottom left, I get a free play with 10-9. I have a gut shot, and as I said, try to steal here. She's successful. Okay, now there's a donk bet. Donk bet is a bet against the initiative. I had the initiative because I put in the last race on the last street. Now let's see if I can draw my outs. I'm getting only 1 to 7 or something, or 1 to 8, and I only have a gut shot and overcard. There was a situation at the beginning of the video where I called for 1 to 8 with a gut shot and the overcard, but this situation is different. The first is that there's a player behind me who could re-raise, then I have to discount my outs more. And the other reason is that this is a board where flush draws are possible, and if this is given, you should discount your outs even more. And for that reason, 1 to 8 is not enough to call. King 7 in MP3 is always a fold. This is the difficulty to not only play your own cards and the board. This is what basically all new players do, but to keep in mind what the other players were doing before, and to think about what they represent, what are the most likely hands of him, and yeah, well, play according to this. Bottom left, Queen 8, easy fold. This is also fold. And pocket 9s, strong hand is a raise. Okay, difficult situation, but it's a fold. The beginner section says that you should not play hands worse than top pair, and there are 2 overcards. And he leads into 2 players, including the preflop raiser, so I can give him credit on a pretty strong hand. There are not a lot of draws possible, only 10 jack, no flush draws possible, so I don't believe that he has something worse than a king or a queen. And I only have 2 outs, so I can easily fold this. King 7 suited, oh man, how can I fold this? But I have to in a video. Gabriel asks in the chat what I'm doing. Well, I'm playing poker. She probably does not like that I take so much time for my decisions. King Queen against the early raise, always the easy fold. And pocket kings in every situation, always the easy cap. Pocket trace. In the late position is a raise from the cutoff. This is funny that the starting end chart says this, because this is in fact this is to lose, and I would not even do this on higher stakes. Okay, now it's donked into me, and again the same player. Maybe he's just a donkey who always donks. Bottom right, pocket trace, absolutely hopeless on this flop. No draw, 3 overcards, easy fold. And upper right, I'm gonna raise for value. With one pair of hands, you should generally make action on the flop, and not wait for the turn if you're in a 2 or 3-handed situation. And the jack is not a good card because 7-8 got there, and but this guy seems to be a donkey. As I said, he's donkeying every street in the last hands, and I'm just raising for value again. You know, I could be more careful if I had no read on this player, or I had a read that he's passive. But with my read that he likes to donk, I'm just raising again. Now it's difficult whether to make another value bet or not. But in fact, I don't believe that somebody has the ace. Nobody represented an ace hand, and the pot is too big that they are not definitely not folding now if they have a pair. So I'm just jamming for value. I would play this hand much more passive against other players, but there are so many poor players outside who always donk with worse hands and call down with bad hands that I can play put so much money inside. Okay, ace 10, the strategy section says, the beginner section says that you should check and fold middle pairs, but in an unraised pot and only 2 opponents left, and I have the middle pair and the top kicker, it's definitely, you should definitely lead out just because you usually have the best hand. And now he's raising me. This is a very difficult spot. This is close. I have several options. I could 3-bet because I think I have the best hand. I could call him down, or I can fold the turn if I believe him the queen. I don't have a read on this guy, so it's a difficult situation because the pot is small and it's not really worth to go to the showdown. Now I also have the nut flush draw, so I check call again. He checked behind, so it's very unlikely that he is the queen. If he's not a very poor player, he cannot have the queen because the queen must bet on the turn. So I think I have a value bet here to get a call of a weaker 10 or a tray. Okay. So this is a very huge mistake not to bet on the turn. So it's you will basically never see this from any better players because he had to protect his hand. There was flush draw outside and stuff, and he has top pair, a good kicker. He has to play for value. So that's why I had an easy bet on the river because I must think I'm ahead. So he was maybe afraid that I had a flush or something, but there was absolutely no reason to think that I have a flush. It's very unlikely that I have a flush there. So he gave me a free card on my 9-outer, or even had much more outs. 9 outs to the flush and 5 outs to 2 pair trips. So I got a free card on 14 outs. That is very nice for me. Okay, I could call a lot of suited connectors in this spot, or 3 limpers, but King 9 is not a good drawing hand. It's not a good hand to play. Okay, pocket 9s are strong hand. Yes. And I can re-raise a strong hand against a single raise. Here I have a gut shot and vector flush draw trying to steal. This is a good flop. I have the open-ended straight draw and the overpair. I'm happy that no ace, king or queen hits. And can bet the flop. If I get raised, I 3-bet because I'm out of position. I'm just putting in pressure on the flop and not give him the chance to take a free card on the turn. And now I bet again because I cannot believe that he has the ace and after only limping pre-flop. And now I'm betting again for value with my flush. It's very low flush, and I'm willing to fold to a raise. But it's a value bet. He could call me with a lot of worse hands, like if he's a bad player. So I'm just betting. I would also have bet again if there's no flush coming because of my queen. Okay, now pocket 8s. This is different. It's where is it listed? Here. One player raise. It's a call. Okay. What was going on the upper right? I cannot remember, I'm just betting. Okay, upper left, I have an easy fold. This player raised pre-flop. This could only be a continuation bet with a hand like Queen Jack suited, but against most of his hands I'm basically drawing to 2 outs, and it's likely that I'm behind. Okay, I mean, it makes no big difference how the preflop action was, but I only have king high. I'm almost drawing that against an ace, so can't fold this on the flop. I sometimes wonder. I'm also doing public coachings in English, and there are not a lot of English-speaking people there usually. So maybe I can encourage you to have a look at the coachings Focus Strategy offers. I think it's a good way to improve the game. But the most important thing, in fact, is to post hands in the sample land forum and to discuss there with other players and discuss with good players. This is, in my opinion, the best chance to improve your game quickly. Okay, I got a free play with my queen tray, and I'm raising my strong hand here. Okay, this is a standard spot, unraised pot. Your opponent checks. You should always bet here, just because it's very likely that he folds, as he did, so you should always try this. Okay, ace jack suited, not a good flop. I have a gut shot, every 2 makes the straight, and he leads into me. This flop is hard to hit. It's difficult to hit this flop, and there are a lot of draws outside, like the flush draw, and every deuce, every 6 makes the open-ended straight draw, and he could have a draw or just bluffing, so I cannot lay down my hand. I go on playing according to the cards that come, and if there is only blanks, that means cards that probably not helped in, like 8 of spades or something, or another 4. I would call him down, since I think my ace high is good enough, often enough. But now this is a bad turn. It's another card he could have, and the flush draw is completed. So I'm willing to lay it down. I cannot call on my outs. I'm not calling on my outs here. I'm just calling because I think my hand is good often enough, and I'm planning a call down on the flop, because I'm not willing to let me bluff out there with ace high on a board like this. But you know, I changed my opinion. You have to be you know, not to, if you plan something, you can change this plan if there are bad cards that come which decrease your equity. That means they decrease the chance that you're ahead, and this was a card because it completes the flush draw. That is one possible holding from him, and it's another overcard he could have. On the bottom left, I have ace queen. This is a top pair, and it's easy to play. It's just a bad flop for value, bad turn, and bad river. If I get raised on the flop, I would 3-bet. But if I get check raised on the turn, I would not 3-bet. I would only call down, because he shows much more strength by raising the turn than by raising the flop. But now I have a very easy value bet. This should be a blank. Probably could not help him. Okay, 6 deuce. Too bad to defend the big blind against the raise. I would basically always fold this. Also against the most aggressive stealers. Alright. This was the second video. I think there were some very interesting hands, better than in the last video. but this is always a question of luck, how good the hands are to explain things on it. But well, let's see in the next vid. It's will be 25 cent, 50 cent, and then I'm leaving this very basic explanation level and talk about a little bit more advanced concepts. Also with regard to pre-flop play. Okay, then thank you for listening and bye bye.